What's up again, everybody? This is going to be my last deck for the Core Set 2020 Standard Meta. I will have a couple different videos for the next couple of weeks in preparation for the new set and rotation. But this week my deck is 3 colors, white, blue, and green. The goal is to get out a bunch of lands and win with zombies through Field of the Dead, stealing their permanents with Agent of Treachery, or possibly even just punching them with a giant Hydroid Crisis. For the deck itself, I'm running 8 cards to help put some land onto the battlefield, 4 Growth Spiral, which lets us draw a card and then put a land onto the battlefield at instant speed, and 4 Circuitous Route, which grabs us 2 unique land from the deck and puts them in tapped. For the elemental package in the deck, there's 4 Risen Reef that gives us land ramp or non-land cards in the hand, and he will be the main target for clone effects. 2 Cavalier of Thorns, which helps us find Field of the Dead in the deck, and when he dies, he's likely to grab something useful to draw in the following turn. Leafkin Druid makes mana, usually 2 of it, and I decided on running 4 Redugiate and Replicate, which can make a token of copy creature or counter an activated or triggered effect. Then 2 of Quasi-Duplicate, which can just make a token of a creature and then be played again from the graveyard, because I wanted there to be an amount of interaction in the deck, and counter spells for Planeswalker effects is pretty good. Instead of running 4 Quasi-Duplicate, I put in 2 Mission Briefing, which lets us filter the top 2 cards of the deck and then play an instant or sorcery from the graveyard, just in case another board wipe or ramp spell is needed over a clone effect. Now, for most clonable cards in the deck, that is Agent of Treachery. He enters the battlefield and you gain control of a permanent permanently, including land. So this card is ideally what we get a bunch of clones of, so that we can trigger the second effect, which lets us draw 3 cards if we've stolen 3 permanents, but this is more of a dream situation that doesn't really happen. Finally, there's Hydroid Crisis, who draws cards, gains life, even if he gets killed or countered, and he's usually at least a 6/6 creature with flying and trample that threatens our opponent's life total. The last card of the deck is Time Wipe, which is the oh crap button of the deck and the entire reason that there's a white splash. This board wipe is great over others because it gives us the opportunity to bounce a creature back to our hand and reuse some of those amazing enter the battlefield effects. Now, for this deck, there's quite a bit of land to go through, but with there not being a budget for this deck, I went all out and threw in 4 Breeding Pool, 2 Temple Garden, and 2 Hallowed Fountains, which are shocklands that come into play untapped if you want to pay 2 life. Then, since we're running Circuitous Route in the deck, there's going to be some Guild Gates, 2 Simic Guild Gate, 1 Selesnya Guild Gate, and then 1 Azorius Guild Gate. Because this deck is rotation proof, there won't be any of the Ixalan or Dominaria dual lands, but instead life gain lands from M20, sitting at 2 Thornwood Falls, 2 Blossoming Sands, and 1 Tranquil Cove. 1 of each basic, a Blast Zone, and Temple of Mystery. Just add a bunch of unique names, and obviously 4 Field of the Dead to justify this wonky of a mana base. If you're wanting to go ahead and pick up this deck on Tcgplayer, I have a link below that you can go pick it up for about $234.95 at the time of recording. That's a huge price tag, so more than likely if you're going to make this deck, it'll be on Arena. And in that case, there's also a link below to Aetherhub, where you can import this deck to Arena with just a few clicks. If you need to craft everything, then it will be 6 Mythic Rares, 26 Rares, 8 uncommons, and 20 commons. And without further ado, let's go ahead and show you guys some gameplay. So I want to come in here and just borrow that Kefnet. And then I'm going to yank that land. And then I'm going to yank that ooze. And now I'm going to go ahead and get to the real game with you guys. I got a fairly decent hand to start off with. It's got 4 land, which is more than enough, and 3 mediocre cards that should draw into something else. And immediately scry that to the bottom. No reason to keep more land at this point. Sim it with Elf. So throw out our Leaf Kindreds. Be on 4 mana next turn. And they're on some sort of Field of the Dead deck themselves. Claim territory, so they're Field of the Dead elementals. So there's gonna be some version of Yaron coming out. That'd be a great target for Agent of Treachery later. Now let's clone our Risen Reef. See what they do on their turn. They don't have a lot of colored sources of mana. Now we have our Field of the Dead, and it is offline. So, zombie, Surveil the Dead into a Risen Reef would be great. Bounced it, but we still get to get 2 Risen Reef triggers and get both of those off the top of the deck. So that's nice. It'll turn into 4 zombie tokens. Play him. Get 2 more. Pass the turn back to them. Steal our Field of the Dead, questionably. They probably should have gone for uniquely gamed land, but I'm gonna just play hot potato with it anyways. Grab 4 more zombies. Swing out with these. Next turn should be lethal unless he has something pretty impressive in his hand. I guess we'll see now. Basically added Risen Reef, so he gets 1 more top deck. It's not helping. So this deck really was something special. It destroyed any mid-range deck that it went up against, especially if they had no interaction. It could be that there was just the right amount of jank in the deck to where I got placed against lower quality decks. But from what I remember, this pool of decks isn't too different from the previous weeks. Kefnet control decks showed up in abundance compared to previous weeks, and all of those games were pretty close. Overall, the win-loss ratio was 60%, which is extremely high, but with such a small sample size, that can be expected to happen from time to time. If you made it this far in the video, I appreciate you for watching as I bring you continuously better content each week.